It's Saturday night in the shed, and yeah, it's been pretty quiet on the channel overall, but here I am now, getting ready to do the review of the Whitby Watch Co. Ad Mare Atlantic. The watch has been with me about 4 weeks. I've had lots of time to wear the watch, get a feel for it, and I'm going to give you a little rundown on it here this evening. Specs and some pros and cons, what I feel about that watch, and yeah, so let's get into it. So I've had the watch out to Cabot Tower, which is Signal Hill in St. John's, Newfoundland. It was able to see the Atlantic Ocean. During my time with the watch, I was not able to get it for a dip in the Atlantic Ocean. But we might get it to have a drink of rum. We'll see. I am not sure if anything says Canadian toughness better than a Nanook case made here in Canada. These are, for the rest of the world, equivalents in style, I guess, to a Pelican case and maybe a Yeti. Yetis are mostly coolers, though. Yeti cases, pretty popular in the southern states. Watch Co. paired itself with Nanook cases. That's upside down. There we go. With the Nanook brand. And this is the Nanook 903. So it's fairly small. And that's really one of my first pros. You know, some people are... I've heard many opinions. Who needs a watch box? Who needs a case? Yeah, this is pretty nice. I'm seeing more and more of these types of watch cases for multiples. So, yeah, I don't think it's a stretch. I think it's a nice touch. And Whitby has their logo on the front there. And the Ad Mare logo is north, east, west. And so for the north, they have a polar bear. For the west, they have an orca. And for the east, here, they have a puffin, all mixed into that logo. And there's one other area that's showing up. So, there you go. So, all Canadian-made Nanook case. And then the design and logos in this styrofoam, all Canadian-made. You're going to hear me talk about the Canadian-made portions a little bit more than I might normally with some sort of standard watch reviews. But for the Canadian content, this one is pretty great. And the logo again here. Your cards, warranty cards, and movement operation, and then just like some marketing stuff. And the watch there in the middle. Northern Time Standard, I believe. Yes, Northern Time Standard, one of... Whitby's sort of things they get into, part of their marketing, and there's the watch. So when you take the watch out, there we go. I mean, come on. I think that's pretty great, pretty solid. You gotta like that. So I did spend a little bit of time on this watch case in the review because I do think it's special and deserves a little bit of time. Yeah, so turning that camera around and getting a close-up look of the Ad Mare Atlantic. The colorway is blue. If you're on their website, you'll get some pretty high-res photos there. So the Atlantic right now is on sale on their website for $771 Canadian. That's $200 off. That price is... only able to be gotten at their website. That deal is not something that I'm offering from the channel, we'll say. So if we got into the specs of this watch for a little bit, 44 millimeter diameter, 14 millimeter thickness, 22 millimeter strap width, so your lug width, 22 millimeters. Now, lug to lug, how long or tall how long you want to say it is, 50.8 millimeters.
The movement is a Salida SW200-1 with a 38-hour power reserve. Now, here's something curious from them. Its water resistance listed on the dial there is a 200 meter. All of the testing, so it's a little thing you'll find on the website. Whitby is Whitby Watch Co. Those guys are hand assembling these watches here in Canada, so in just outside Whitby, Ontario, actually. And the watches are getting tested for water resistance to 300 meters during the testing. 200 meters on the dial, 300 meter testing. Not sure why they wouldn't have went ahead and changed the dial marking to say 300 meters. I think you can see it there right now. Yeah. Just there above the 6 o'clock, sort of. Just the only, right there. 200 M, or is it M or ATMs? M's. 200 meters there. Not sure why they wouldn't have went ahead, but hey, that's just me holding the watch right now and then reading the information. So I'm not quite sure, if it's a fair statement to ask them why they didn't. But we'll keep going. C3 Super Luminova on all the indices hands and in the pip at the 12 o'clock there. The bezel insert is ceramic and it has 120 clicks. I think I've messed with it a little bit. Nice audible. Let's see if I can get that thing to line up. Yeah, that's got a nice solid line up there. Nice solid tactile feeling bezel. You know how it is with the bezels on the dive watches. I'm a dive watch addict, so these things appeal to me. Lume, bezels, that's where I'm at with it. The crystal is sapphire. It's 2.5 millimeters thick, and it has AR coating on the inside only. So, I guess it's base sort of standard operating procedure these days, any micro brand. All the materials in this watch are 316L stainless steel. If you're interested in knowing, the bracelet, case, and so on, all 316L stainless steel. Some of the pros for me. Here we get a side view. 14 millimeters thick. This is not exactly a small watch by any stretch. It has some pretty similar dimensions to my Citizen Skyhawk AT. So if you've ever had one of those Citizen Skyhawks, that'll give you an idea of just sort of how that's feeling. The end links are fitted to the watch head with screws. So screw bars, whatever you want to call them. I would say that it's similar in my experience with a couple of Panerais. And what was that other brand? It was a micro brand out of the States. I had screw bars holding in the end links. And then all of the links are held in with screws here in the bracelet. So you got a security double fold over clasp. All the usuals. The milled clasp, milled links here in the clasp. Still some stickers and tags on it. Nice solid feeling. Fold over, double security fold over, I think is what you would call it. And the Whitby logo right there on the clasp. The logo is also embossed right there in the crown. Nice crown guards. The crown is good size. I have a if I'm nice to myself, I got a 7.5 inch wrist, probably a little larger. And so my chubby digits these days, typically no issue operating the crown. The crown feels, oh, pardon me. The crown does feel smooth to operate. And when you back it out of the threads, it has a nice quick, the tension on that crown, it pops out. So it's got a good feel to it. The usual date there at the 3. You pull once and you can get that crown or that date moving. There you go. Pull once more and that Salida does the old hacking. And you can set that time again. So if we get a good look at the dial, Whitby, for some visual interest and contrast, the dial face there has a couple of different finishes. I apologize. I believe the dial crystal is a little smudged. Fix it up there for you. So high polish on those applied indices and the hands. The watch does have some high polish finishes there in that area. I guess for the visual appeal. I'm not a design. I'm more about the practical. How does it feel on wrist? And that inner chapter ring. There you go. A contrasting sort of pastel blue color. Works very well. And it's numbered in there with the minute track. Or minute numbers on that track there. So no problem with legibility on the hands. On that dial. Nice contrast, dark back. That dark blue dial with the high polish hands and the lume, and yeah, that red seconds hand, just nice sweep there. I think that's 28,600 hertz or beats per hour. Sorry, there you go. So we'll put that crown back in place. I like to give them a little twist backwards to make sure they're in those threads correctly before I start jamming that crown into place. So, overall, great quality watch. I was a big fan of the Intrepid, their first release. I unfortunately did not get an opportunity to try one of those in here at the channel for review, but really liking the Ad Mare. I'm a big dive watch guy. That seems to be, most of my collection. I'll say 95% of my collection. I might have 1 out of 20 watches that isn't 1 or 2. I think it's 2 maybe if I include some of my older watches that aren't dive watches. But I really deal in the dive watch realm, and we'll talk about that for a second here now.
So that's a few details and specs. Pros and cons. Pros. For me, personally, pros. I appreciate how much of that product is Canadian made. The watch wears well on wrist. It's not sloppy. Left, right, rolling around on your wrist. I've got my Orient on a NATO strap this evening. That probably leads to something you should be aware of. So I feel like the watch isn't exactly light. And I took out my scales this evening and weighed a few watches that I had around the house. So if you've followed my channel at all, you'll find out that I have a number of larger than average watches, and they appeal to me. One of those is a Tuna SBBN 039. So not an insignificant watch for size. The Tuna can. That weighed in on a NATO strap. I don't have it here with me. That weighed in at 97 grams. I have a Tudor Ranger 79910 on bracelet. That weighed in at 141 grams. The Orient. And to be fair, it's not on a bracelet. I suspect that this one would be much heavier on bracelet, but that came in at 151 grams. The Ad Mare on bracelet weighs in at 186 grams. That's not an insignificant amount of weight on your wrist. The bracelet definitely adds to that. This is a significant bracelet. Again, for reference, I have a 7.5-inch wrist. I do find the watch comfortable. But that appeals to me. If you are scared of larger watches, maybe this is not for you. It feels well balanced on wrist. I do not have any concerns there. Not really cons. Whitby has definitely shown some significant chops when it comes to this particular iteration of dive watches, and the time it took to think about putting together. The Osmo is following me around, the DJI Osmo gimbal. That took a bit of thinking, design, putting together the package. You've got this really cool dive watch. You cannot, I don't believe, buy on their website rubber straps for the dive watch. It would have been cool. Would have been cool. A rubber strap for this one. Because this is all of the links, and it's got 3 micro adjusts. In the truest, purest nature, the form of a dive watch. A longer bracelet or a dive extension, and maybe a purpose-designed rubber strap, because I don't know if a Crafter Blue. My fear would be is that if you purchased a rubber strap for it, given the significant 14 millimeters of thickness and those nice lugs that they have there, that the strap might not pair as well in the world of generic sort of any old rubber strap you can buy. So that's really my pros, cons for the watch. Thank you so much to the team at Whitby for allowing me the time. I have been 4 weeks with this watch, so they are definitely a patient bunch waiting for me to get this done. So I'll be able to get this clued up, sent back to them. $771 Canadian. I think that's a very attractive price, given the quality of the build, the package, the Swiss movement, the finishes. It really is an all-around solid micro brand watch. I can say that hand on heart type of stuff. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks for taking the time to watch my videos here in the Watch Shed. Cheers.